get the introduction of each and every individual participating here. I'm also going to mute you all from my side. There is a chat option available. I request you all to make use of the chat opportunity and chat with us if you have any doubts or any questions. This is one of those unique programs which we have started off, but let me quickly introduce myself because I'll be probably spearheading this training. My name is Bharani. I happen to be alumnus of Indian School of Business and Indian Institute of Technology. I have overall 14 plus, I would say rather 15 years of experience now. And all this while, I've been working in the space of analytics. There are approximately 40 plus big data and analytics engagements that I've accomplished until now. Moving on to my certifications, I am a PMP certified, ACP certified. I've done my risk management professional, Agile project management, Lean Six Sigma, Green Belt, Tableau, Scrum Master. I'm an internal auditor, certified internal auditor rather. So these are a bunch of certifications which I have, and these are the various companies that I've worked with. I started off working with HSBC. Then I joined Indian Tobacco Corporation. Then I was part of Infosys, and the last company that I worked with was with Deloitte. Right? And in Infosys and Deloitte, this is where my introduction happened to life sciences, healthcare analytics as well. Right. All this while I was into data analytics, and companies such as even ITC for that case, they have different verticals based on industries. And I was aligned to an industry which was dealing with data analytics, and any customer coming from life sciences healthcare, for example, companies such as Novartis or for that case, Dr. Reddy's, it would fall into this vertical and you were supposed to deliver that project using analytics, right? And I happen to be a chief data scientist on these companies. Athena Technologies, that's a US based firm. MedliMed is another startup which is in the space of life sciences healthcare. Brontobite Analytics is yet another startup in the space of life sciences healthcare. And here is where we built a cancer prediction model. And 6biz is a company which is based out of Malaysia. It is an accounting firm, or I would say firm which is specialized in AI driven accounting solutions. So I serve on these boards, right? And I'm a visiting faculty for Watson Business School. That's about my profile. I will also introduce our other trainers towards the end of the session. Okay, this session would last for approximately an hour. And what is the intention or the expectation of this program? I think there is a chat message. Let me address that. Okay. So I think, is everyone able to hear me? Can you please confirm using the chat window, chat message? Yep. Okay. Then Dr. Narsimha, probably there is some issue with your mic. You might want to maybe restart. Okay. So let's get into this. Agenda for today is quick introduction to what is data and what kind of data is getting generated in the space of life sciences healthcare. A quick insight about life sciences healthcare industry. I would say rather how is the analytics space emerging in this industry. There'll be a lot of slides pertaining to applications of data science and AI in life sciences healthcare industry. What are the various opportunities that are available in terms of developments happening in the space of life sciences healthcare analytics and in the space of job opportunities, right? What do we see? And what are our unique selling propositions? And why do you need to choose 360 Digit MG over other service providers for life sciences healthcare analytics, right? These are a few things that we'll focus upon. And let me give you a brief about why now, right? Why is world going gaga behind data? Why is business world going crazy behind data? In back old days, if you remember, people were using floppy disks. I'm sure majority of us belong to that era where we were using floppy disks. I still remember it was just a matter of going to an internet center, downloading a file, putting it in a floppy disk of probably 1.44 MB, and then I would come home, insert that floppy disk in my home PC, and it wouldn't work. Right? So the longevity was just pathetic. This the world that we live in has moved on, and now we have micro storage devices, and I'm sure there are devices which can also hold 1 terabyte, and this device is roughly the size of your fingernail, size of your little fingernail, and it can store roughly 1 terabyte of data. So the size of storage devices has shrinked significantly, and the capacity has increased multifold. And you know what? Even if when I wash my clothes, if I accidentally forget the micro storage device in my pocket, and then if I wash my clothes, after that dries and after we iron that, when I finally realize that I forgot my SD card in my pant pocket, if I remove and start using it, it will still work. So nowadays the devices are very, very reliable. So what are the various things which have happened? The size shrinked. First. Second, storage capacity increased. Third, the reliability increased. And these are the various reasons why organizations, hospitals, medical institutes are scaling up their storage capacity so as to store the data, right? In good old days, or even now, I would not say good old days, even now, a lot of data centers exist, right? Data centers are nothing but collection of multiple computers, collection of multiple servers. Yeah, cost, absolutely, Rajeshwar. I'm getting there with respect to cost. And these, storage devices store data basically. They are powerful computers or powerful laptops, which are called as servers, which are stored in a room, well maintained with AC and all that. So that's a storage device. These devices, or a typical data center of Google, would be the size of a football ground. Such a large setup is what they have, and multiple such data centers is what they have. These data centers are getting changed into small rooms thanks to quantum computers. Because of quantum computing, if you look at this device, and you also have a person here standing with a hand on the hip, right? So this quantum computer is such a small device, and it is extremely powerful. It is so powerful that it can replace this entire data center. So again, the storage devices shrinked, capacity increased, and obviously reliability as well. And finally, cost. Needless to say that today, if you want to store the data, it is absolutely, or rather almost zero. Why am I saying storing data, cost of storing data is almost zero? Because if you simply open a Gmail account, you'd get 15 GB free storage. And if that's a corporate account that you have, then it's 30 GB. If it's an educational account, Gmail account, then it is unlimited storage, for free. Wow, right? And here are a few laws, right, that we would have learned long back. Moore's law. What does it say on computing? Density of transistors on a chip doubles every 2 years. I mean, you have chip, number of transistors that you have on that are almost doubling. What do transistors do? They take input and they amplify and provide output. A few years back, this was true that every 2 years, the number of transistors on the same, real estate of a chip was getting double. But now it's almost every year. Then we have Kreider's law, which says that density of hard disks doubles every 1 year. That means for the same size of hard disk, capacity would double. The number of disks which store data would get doubled once in every year. Then we have Butter's law of photonics. Data which is flowing or coming out of optical fiber is getting doubled once in every 9 months. That's Butter's law. And then we have Henry's law. Amount of data in terms of videos and images have increased multifold, right? The number of pixels per dollar in the digital camera doubles every 2 years. What does that mean? Today, for say 50,000 rupees, if you can get a phone which has 20 megapixels, then within the next 2 years, for the same 50,000 rupees, you would get 40 megapixels. Right? That is the rate at which technology is enhancing. And no wonder organizations are behind data, and data is the new oil. I would like to invite upon Satish. Satish, can you actually maybe introduce yourself quickly and then walk us through the various data sources and the kind of data which is getting generated in life sciences healthcare industry? Yes, Satish.
Yeah, hi, good morning all. Welcome to the session. This is Satish. I'm into life sciences and healthcare. My whole 9 years experience is into life sciences. And recently from past 3 years, I was into life sciences and AI, basically AI and data science space, working on various projects in healthcare and life sciences. Yeah, so coming to this data generation in life sciences and healthcare industry, so there are various segments in life sciences and healthcare industry because it's a vast subject that we're talking about. Coming to healthcare, especially, so there are two modes of data that in hospitals or healthcare industries are generating. Administrative data, which comes into insurance data, hospital maintenance data. When I talk about hospital maintenance data, that is a bed occupancy rate or hospital discharge summaries. All this comes into hospital maintenance data. And the second part is clinical data. So when it comes to clinical data, probably all the doctors will know that what about hospital EMR data and physician EMR data. Hospital EMR data in the sense the patient's clinical information and physician's observations and therapeutic clinical data where what are the suggestions that we do and follow-ups of the case, and wearable devices data. So nowadays, Barney will talk in the next slides coming up what about the IoT sensors and what the wearable devices that we use. For example, our Apple Watch or smart watches that we use every day-to-day life. So all this is the data basically. That is like wearable devices data. And coming to the pharmacy sector, there are various data sources. All this data initially there used to be in a books or in hard copies. But as Barney was telling previous before slides that since the data storage is becoming very cheap and robust, so people are trying to store all this data in digitalizations basically. So preclinical studies majorly into organ toxicity, acute and chronic toxicity, carcinogenicity, tetragenicity, mutagenicity, all these kind of data which for coming from preclinical trials in terms of drug. So these data are being there. Clinical healthy human voluntary studies, clinical trials 2 and 3, and post-marketing surveillance data. So all these are like different sources of data for pharma industry where we can use leverage the data science and AI to imply there, and then do some predictive models and mm, descriptive modeling, predictive modeling, and prescriptive modeling kind of. So coming to life sciences, probably many of you guys know that life sciences is also is into it's a data ocean actually. So there are multiple ways in life sciences data. That is one thing is single cell omics, large data cells. Now we have around 20 million cells in the body that which have identified approximately. Yeah. So that is where all the data comes from, omics data. And microscopy imaging, there are n number of the advanced microscopic images where initially they used to look at the microscope and see. Now digital scanners came into picture, and taking a photography of microscopic image, cell data, pathology data, all this comes into microscopic data. And genomics, it's all about sequencing of data. For example, one human, our whole genome sequencing data is about 15 to 12 GB of one person. So it is a huge data actually. So imagine if one person's data is 15 GB, and then if it's a 1 million people, then it's a huge data actually. So the large data we have, the large scope of AI implementations, and genetic data. Genetic data is nothing but all the mutations that we have. It comes into the personalized medicine people are talking nowadays. Community medicine, personalized medicine, all these details comes into genetic data. Yeah, so these are the various sources of data that we get for licensed healthcare industry. So probably we can have multiple use cases on these data sets in coming further sessions. Yeah, so that's all for data generation. Yeah,
Yep.
but
Thank you so much, Satish. So this training will be delivered by 4 people, right? Satish is masters in bioinformatics, so he'll be covering from the domain analytics perspective, bringing in the flavor of life sciences healthcare into that. I would be playing the role of data scientist, AI expert, coupled with life sciences healthcare. And we also have our IoT expert here. Her name is Shrija. Shrija, I would request you to quickly introduce yourself and then explain about how IoT is generating data in the space of life sciences healthcare. Yeah, over to you.
Hi everyone, very good morning. My name is Shrija. I have done my bachelor's in electronic and communication engineering. I have done my PGP in IoT from BITS Pilani. I have several years of experience in this domain. Okay, and so IoT, Internet of Things. So, Internet of Things, you might have heard about this term and about its application seems very interesting. So let me briefly explain about Internet of Things. What is this Internet of Things and why it's booming and why applications are like booming up? So Internet of Things, if I briefly explain, it's about connecting devices to the internet and interconnecting devices within themselves, and these devices are not the devices that are meant to connect to internet, like our daily devices like shoes, watches, our home automation systems, cars, pets, lighting. So and these smart devices has branched out into different domains and in life sciences and healthcare also. And here on my screen, we have some cool examples related to healthcare IoT. So the first image here is healthcare smart devices like wearables, hearing assistant devices, vision assistant devices, and wearables. We already know that, and wearables already has been big hit in the market, and these wearables are tracking the number of step counts, our sleep cycles, and our heart rate. And also wearables are already some companies, one of the company from Korea, they have already manufactured wearable to know the BP levels without doing any tests remotely. They can know the BP levels of the patient. So this wearable collect all the BP related data, blood pressure related data, and sends to the cloud. And doctor via cloud, he can access that information so that the patient can be treated efficiently and need not make too many hospital visits. And also, these variables can be used to for chronic diseases like type 1 diabetics. There are sensors to detect the glucose levels within your sweat, and by making use of data, you can actually assist them by when taking the medicines, by controlling the medicine dosage. And the second image, organ on a chip. Interesting and sounds weird. How can organ can be on a chip? Right, and this is a groundbreaking invention. Organ on a chip, we can also call it as a lab on a chip. So what this organ on a chip is, it's a polymer with microfluid channels lined by living cells. Meaning they will take a bit of your organ, let's say skin, they will take a tissue of your skin and they will develop these cells on one polymer. Polymer is like a silicon rubber. It will be soft and it has designed to be soft so that the tissue should get and feel that they are inside the body, and they are going to give fluids, and they are going to provide all the necessary environment to make this tissue grow. And like this they can grow lungs, kidneys on the chip, and they can test medicines on these organs, how the organs are going to react. And we know that we are already using animals to test our drugs, and the animal system is completely different from human system. And this organ on a chip is like a simulator of your organ. Like if you're driving a car, and what I will do is, before actually going and driving a car, I will do it on a simulator. It's like a video game. I will get access of steering and all other things which are used to drive the car, and I will check what happens if I turn steering left and right. The same thing we are doing here. We are creating a simulator of our organs and testing drugs, and it is very useful for research and development, for diagnosis, all these kinds of things. And chip in a pill. Chip in a pill means how can you swallow a chip along with a pill, and these pills are ingestible pills and digestible pills. And of course there are some ethical issues on using these chips in the pills. And for now many organizations are using this chip in a pill for research and development, for invention of new drugs, for testing the new drugs. They are already using a chip in a pill. So these chips are miniature chips, and they are like micro cameras. If a person swallows this chip, you can know actually take pictures of his organs, and you can know what is happening in his bloodstream. So it is helpful for diagnosis. Diagnosis will become easy. And this is already implemented in Qantas test flight. So it has completed 19-hour non-stop journey from New York to Sydney. Since it's a long flight journey, what they have done is they have used these pills. They have requested passengers to swallow these pills, of course, with the passengers' willingness, so that they can get all the data related to their body, their blood levels, glucose levels, all these kind of data, so that they can assist them effectively. And Google Glasses. So Google Glasses are already available in the market. So how can doctors use Google Glasses? So doctor, while talking with the patient, he can know the history of the patient, and he can also record the conversation that he is making with the patient. And today there are a lot of NGOs helping out poor countries and people living in remote locations with healthcare. They are video conferencing the doctors. So here, rather than video conferencing the doctors, if they use Google Classes, the cost will be reduced. And beacons or Bluetooth enabled devices, it's a location based analytics. Look, we will collect location data and we will analyze that. And there are smart wheelchairs, we can use sensors in drug delivery and devices, we can use wristbands. And the data generation via IoT in life sciences and healthcare industry. So wireless body area networks. So these connects independent nodes that are sensor nodes, and these sensor nodes will be in the clots on the body, under the skin of a person, and the network typically expands over the whole human body, and nodes are connected through a wireless communication channel. Yes, and wireless body networks, so the body area networks, so are very helpful because you can connect various sensors which are collecting various parameters of the body and can analyze the data, which provides very valuable insights in treating the person, diagnosis, and so on. So thank you for everyone. So I'm that's all I'm taking leave.
Yep. Thank you so much, Shrija, for those you know interesting insights on how data is getting generated in life sciences healthcare industry when it comes to IoT. And here is Internet of Medical Things, right? And there is a research which was conducted, and based on the research, by 2022 there will be $158.1 billion worth of market when it comes to just Internet of Medical Things. And the research also says that there will be 50 million interconnected devices. That means for every the world's population is 7.5 billion. For every person on the planet, there'll be approximately 7 interconnected devices which would generate data. Okay, so that point, this module was included just to give you all a sense on what are the various sources which are generating data. Right? And just to give you a quick insight about life sciences healthcare, global healthcare spending is projected to increase at an annual rate of 5.4%. In the span of 2013 to 2017, the spend was 2.9%, and the spend has significantly increased. Right? And the spending per capita would range widely from $11,000 in US to $54 in Pakistan, right? In 2020, that's the projection. There is higher per person spending because they want high quality healthcare. That means we have a lot of business. Life expectancy would increase from 73.5 to 74.4 years. What does that mean? The number of people aged over 65 would be more. It would be 11.6% of the total global population. There are a lot of communicable diseases, and the fight is on against that, right? Through better sanitation, etc., etc. So the spending would once again go up. In terms of predicting on what are those regions where people might get sick, there was a project which was initiated by Andhra government probably 3 years back on what kind of diseases people would encounter in certain locations in rural parts during rainy seasons. Can we upfront predict that? Oh yes. And the research goes on and on. So it looks very bright for us. Even before I proceed further in explaining about the insights of life sciences healthcare, a quick intro about what is this artificial intelligence and data science. artificial intelligence is human intelligence within your computer. If I can embed intelligence similar to that of a human within a computer, then that is artificial intelligence, right? Human intelligence put in your computer, artificial intelligence is what it will become. And within artificial intelligence, there is a broad subject called as data science. Data scientists, people who deal with data, right? Usually scientists do some research, data scientist does research on data. Within data science, you have a submodule called as data mining. Within data mining, there is something called as machine learning. Machine learning is also called as predictive modeling. So you build predictive models. And then finally, deep learning. Deep learning is a sub branch of machine learning. And now the world is using neural networks. And this is the future. And a few more insights quickly before we hit the applications part. That might be an area of interest for majority of you all. The amount of spending in the space of life sciences healthcare across the various continents is as follows. The blue line shows 2017 and the red line shows, red bar rather, shows 2022. Right? It's a projected amount that people will spend. And if you see in each and every, globally also, and in each and every major continents, we see that there will be a significant increase in the amount of spend in comparison to 2017. Right? And people have already started speaking about virtual patient simulations, right? And that is expected to grow by almost 20% to become $1.5 billion industry by 2025. Virtual patient means, in hospitals, you would have a patient, rather than having a physical patient, there will be a simulated patient. You can just cut that simulated patient's stomach. You can open, you can, remove the kidney, you can probably fix that or replace with another kidney. So all these kind of things people can do. That's what the world is looking at. In Japan, Panasonic has created a nursing care bed. Why in Japan? That might be a question. In Japan, the number of nurses have come down significantly and the aging population has grown significantly. Hence, there was a need, or there is a need rather, and the technology firms have scaled up to meet that particular requirement or plug the gap. All right. Next, let me quickly run through all these applications. Google artificial intelligence beats the doctors at breast cancer detection. So Google, which is in no way related to life sciences healthcare, is now embarking on that. And Google has developed similar AI applications for lung cancer, eye disease, and kidney injury. Autonomous AI meets diabetes standards of care. What's happening here? People have built systems which are approved by FDA, Food and Drug Administration USA, to use AI to assess diabetic retinopathy. Then Proskia recently joined Johns Hopkins School of Medicine to create an application that will use AI to help pathologists. Pathologists would zoom in, zoom out the images and then try to write a report. Or under the microscope, they would test and write a report. Can we automate that? And can we have pathologists, quickly cross-check on whether that's correct or incorrect? The report which is generated by AI. That would mean that with less number of pathologists, you can address the needs of the planet. Right? There is a company called as Page, a healthcare startup firm. It is developing cancer-fighting AI Look at the name, Cancer Fighting Artificial Intelligence System. There is $45 million. A French startup has collaborated with another pharma firm to use AI in new drug design. Accenture, which is into IT, is getting a source of acquisition, and what they are doing is they are trying to acquire a firm, 350 employees who are working in the space of AI big data, working primarily with healthcare clients. Name an IT company, they would be having one or the other healthcare client with them. Then we have LeanTask. It's an analytics company. They are using AI to optimize healthcare provider operations. The entire supply chain is getting optimized, right? They have raised $40 million recently. Cigna uses AI to check if patients are taking their medicines on time or not. If they're not taking, then send a signal to them. Amazing, right? And Sprout, which has raised $12 million to develop its service that uses AI to match people with life insurance providers, right? What kind of insurance suits you more based on your body needs and your medical condition? That's an innovation. Singapore approves artificial intelligence for vascular ultrasound scans. So that software uses deep learning, neural networks, and text recognition to analyze and report vascular ultrasound images. Then VA, it is in US the country's largest integrated health system. They have more than 9 million active patients data, right? And it also has one of the largest genomic databases, which has data of 800,000 veterans. What will they use that for? To predict responses to medications. If I give you a medicine, how would you respond, right? Is your cholesterol level lowering? Or am I able to treat certain kinds of cancer? Those kind of things are happening. For physiotherapists, right? Basically, they want to not just treat the patients when they have some injury, but predicting the injuries. That's what NFL is doing basically, right? They have partnered with Amazon. Now you might say Amazon is an e-commerce company. Yes. Nowadays, companies which are into e-commerce or IT, etc., are venturing into life sciences healthcare because of the amount of demand that we see here. Flu shots, predicting that, you know what, your citizens living in this village, this town might get infected with this disease. That would give ammunitions to the government to upfront, give some kind of flu shots to ensure that your people living in that location do not get sick, right? People are using. Amazon brings AI expertise to drug discovery in Novartis Pact. So Amazon has tied up with Novartis to use artificial intelligence in drug industry. Google is using human chest X-ray images so that it makes the lives of radiologists simple. And the results are as good as radiologists. And they also go on to say that our objective is not to replace artificial intelligence with radiologists, but our intention is to help artificial intelligence systems serve as friend to a radiologist, right? And then people have started using algorithms to predict risk of you ending up in hospital. If someone can tell me that, hey, you might get admitted in hospital because of heart problems, heart diseases, I would love to take precautionary measures. Prevention is better than cure, right? GE Healthcare, they launched a program to speed up AI adoption among health providers. So they're ensuring that they upskill the health providers in making use of AI so that we provide cutting edge solutions. Hospital system uses AI to boost surgery outcomes. Yep. What is the success of surgery? Sometimes, the patient discharge date might get extended because of probably incorrect medication? Can I cut down such things? Can I cut down such costs? Can I standardize the surgical procedures? Can AI guide me on what step I have missed or what step I have to take next? Right. So on and so forth. Drug development, right? And then we have clinic and telemedicine appointments. This is starting to boom up. When you log in remotely, your doctor need not address you right from the word go. The AI powered software is going to ask initial questions, initial basic questions to identify the symptoms, similar to what a physician or a nurse would do. That would save a lot of time. All right, risks and remedies for artificial intelligence in healthcare, right? Then studies have shown AI deep learning models helping cardiologists detect AFib. Then health startup raises so much to detect cancer faster. Everywhere it's AI backed. AI in the exam room could reduce physician burnout. If a physician is being overused, if you ask your doctors to work additional hours, then quality might decrease. Can I have an AI system which will also assign patients to the physicians in such a way that one specific physician is not burned out? There is a project called as Nightingale, started by Google. What are they doing? They are liaising with 2,600 hospitals, offices across 21 states in US. And they're trying to capture tens of millions of patients' records. That would mean analytics on this data. That would mean emergence of AI and data science, right? AI can understand what is causing diseases and suggest this to the doctors. Microsoft, where is Microsoft? It's all about selling operating system, right? They have also embraced AI to help diagnose cervical cancer faster. And it might just be crucial to overloaded doctors in India. In India, doctors are overloaded, no doubt about that. There is a lot of survey research which is saying that doctors are getting burned out because of this, too much of work that they are handling. Early AI adopters are beginning to see success predicting readmissions. Who are those patients who might get readmitted to hospitals? Not sure about India, but in US, if a patient gets readmitted within 30 days of getting discharged, then there'll be certain penalties. Then China's Tencent, that's nowhere close to life sciences healthcare. They have started partnering with firms, and they have started using AI for Alzheimer's and diabetes, right? AI can outperform doctors. So why are the patients not trusting? There are researches going on in this space also. How to ensure patients start trusting the AI doctor. New York regulator, they are probing United Health algorithm for racial bias, right? So if your algorithms are treating well for white patients and not treating well for the colored or the black patients, then that means you are biased. You will be penalized, right? So that means there is also some kind of traction in the space of what kind of data you use to build your models. And the list would go on and on, right? I mean, the potential of AI is to augment and give meaningful information to clinicians. A lot of healthcare startups are spotting early signs of strokes, heart strokes. And if you have such a system, Viz.ai, basically, it's an AI system, they raised $50 million. A lot of startups are raising a lot of money. Robotic automation is happening thanks to AI and robotic automation, right? People are using that for protein drug discovery. Then the entire supply and demand, right? Medications, we are, say, Dr. Reddy's or Aurobindo Pharma, they are manufacturing a lot of drugs, they are producing a lot of drugs. Can we actually predict and prevent such drug shortages if there are any, though they are producing those many? Can we forecast and give those numbers to these firms so that they try to produce more number of drugs or less number of drugs based on the demand? right? And then this particular firm is analyzing data points which encompasses pharmacies, hospitals, distributors, clubbing everything together, right? And then forecasting on how many drugs are getting sold, how many drugs are needed to be produced by pharmacies, how many drugs would be consumed by the hospitals, so on and so forth. And the list, I can speak for another whole day on these things, right? So I'll be a little fast here. There are collaborative robots coming up. I'll speak about this in the last slide, maybe, or last but one slide. And Sensine is helping UK Health Watchdog develop rules for using AI in the space of life sciences healthcare. Tokyo, a startup in Japan, actually has come up with a system which was developed by AI for gastric cancer prediction, right? And when people in US were polled, 45% of them said they were open to a doctor using AI in treating them. That would eventually percolate to developing countries as well. Bayer uses AI to to improve disease diagnosis and the drug design. Novartis, Microsoft join hands. Then eco devices, those are devices which are using digital stethoscope and cardiac monitoring devices to identify heart conditions, heart diseases. AI can streamline insurance claims. Fraudulent health insurance claims are on the rise. So how do we identify such things and also help the insurance firms? AI is being used in schools to detect who is going to self-harm themselves, psychology related, right? In some sense, it's also related to life sciences healthcare. And then a lot of pharmaceutical companies are doing this. Machine learning is being used as the key to enabling drugs to be aimed at molecular targets, right? So undruggable proteins, the proteins in the body that have eluded drug makers. So many things are happening in that space. To rapidly design 30,000 new molecules and then narrowing them down to 6, which can be synthesized and then further tested in the lab. That's what is being done by another startup which is using AI. Israel is preparing for AI in healthcare. UK CMR is spending a lot of millions of dollars to launch robotic surgery technology. There's something called as Risk Cardio. It just needs 15 minutes ECG readings. Then it can determine various kinds of cardiovascular diseases that we have. Right? AI can gauge the risk of dying from heart conditions. Hey, again, prevention is better than cure. Right? Big growth seen in healthcare AI. And AstraZeneca, Microsoft, they have opened AI incubator, artificial intelligence incubator. This Mayo is working on EKG health test. Then we have healthcare AI startup, which is getting funded, new drug treatments. AI is being used in that also, and the list would go on and on, right? So there are a lot of requirements, needs in the market. There will be pathologist gap, right? It is likely to increase by 2030. Hence, we need systems which can replace pathologists or help pathologists perform better and faster. Companies are in India. This is a startup, right? Sigtapul, and Satish would speak about this in a while, about this firm. And then a doctor's positive AI experience, right? People are, doing some research and trying to understand on whether doctors can feel happy about using AI or not. And this particular company which is working on that system also has sought to detect neck fractures and bleeds in the brain, right? Can we upfront predict that, right? And by 2020, AI will create more jobs than it eliminates. That is what Gartner says. By 2021, artificial intelligence augmentation will generate 2.6 trillion in business value, and it's going to recover 6.2 billion hours of workers' productivity. Growth in the AI health market is expected to reach $6.6 billion by 2021, right? And that would mean a compounded annual growth rate of 40%. Right? Another research says that AI could help add $957 billion to the Indian economy by 2035. And investing in AI in the Indian healthcare industry, that investment in AI seems to be increasing in the space of life sciences healthcare. Accenture has to say this, that AI applications in healthcare by 2026 would be in this way. From preliminary diagnosis to automated image diagnosis to connected machines to reduced dosage error to fraud detection to administrative workflow assistance to robotic surgeries. Right? These are the range of applications of AI in the space of life sciences healthcare. Digitization, AI would be pivotal in that space, helping reduce the operational effort and making the operations more effective. Engagement, AI would be used in engaging the patients and the customers and the consumers, etc. Diagnostics, needless to say that already it's being used in not just in diagnostics but in all of these three prime zones, but it would increase, the amount of investment would increase. These are the various companies within India. We have taken just a snapshot of that, who are hiring people with artificial intelligence and data science knowledge. Pharma analytics, data science. These are all, a few of these are startups, right? Then companies such as McKinsey, right, which is into consulting, management consulting, they also want people with data science and AI knowledge. However, they are looking out for people who have that domain or industry experience. IBM is doing the same. Pfizer is doing the same. Of course, Pfizer, needless to say, because it's anyways into life sciences healthcare. So this is how the world is getting revolutionized, right? And one small thing before I take your questions. This is a hospital, or this is an application which is being built for smart hospital in Malaysia. By 2020, they want to make it live, and we have partnered with this company. And this image, I'm not sure whether you're able to see that. That's me, right? And this is the company with whom we have partnered in Malaysia. This is an experience lab of theirs on how exactly it would work. So what happens is, when I book an appointment on mobile, I also need to, for the first time, give the vehicle number, and I need to take my selfie. Then what happens is, the moment I take appointment and when I start to the hospital, it will also prompt me that, hey, you have an appointment, you have to start so many minutes ahead of time. Then when I start the vehicle, it's going to track my GPS and then keep suggesting me on how to reach the hospital, like similar to what Google Maps does. The moment I reach the hospital, there'll be a barricade and I need to enter the parking lot. My car is here, for example. It will just scan the number plate and tag it back to its database, determines that, hey, this is a guy who has already taken an appointment, automatically open the gate. You would then go into the parking lot. Within the parking lot, GPS is weak. Hence, there is something called as geofencing, which is enabled. Through that, it will route you to the nearest available parking lot. Then you get into the hospital. You just come here. Similar to this machine, there was a machine on this side. It has not come in this image. So you just stand in front of that image, of that machine. It's like ATM machine. It would take a photo and determine that it's you, Bharani Kumar, who has an appointment now. And then it will route you to the next steps, wherein there'll be certain self-diagnosis that you can do. Or self-recording of the data. You sit on this chair and track your blood pressure, etc. Then go stand here on this height and weight sensor. All those basic data which is required gets captured automatically rather than writing it on a piece of paper. Then all the data would appear here for you also. That information would then get transmitted to the doctor or physician. Even before you meet physician has the information about vital parameters. Then you are sitting here and physician is here across the table. Usually what happens, doctor is going to ask physician is going to respond. While this conversation happens, doctors will wear a Bluetooth device. Using that, entire conversation goes into your database automatically and resides in the database, right? Usually what happens, doctors write a prescription. I mean, they write the symptoms here briefly and they prescribe medicines. And this paper is not recorded. So your visit is recorded, but your symptoms and medication is not recorded. Now with this technology, it gets recorded. Then what happens? You just leave. You come here to another machine. You stand in front of that. Again, using computer vision, it will determine that it's you. And then it will generate a bill automatically for you. And you can pay using the card or cash or using all sorts of, mechanisms that exist currently to pay. Once you make the payment, you go to the next ATM kind of a machine wherein robot would have delivered you the medicines. It will just come here, you take your medicines and walk away. You can also have an experience of how the robots are pulling the medicines, scanning them, checking for expiry date, and then giving those medicines to you. It's such an experience, right? Wow. And how did we partner with them? We have built an artificial intelligence based chatbot by looking at data from CPG, clinical practice guidelines documents, and SNOMED documents. Using all these data, we built an AI system, and this AI system will help the rural doctors who serve in rural areas, right? And this can serve as a first level self-assessment for the patients also. They can just ask questions. It will follow up with subsequent questions. You keep answering, and then it will also suggest the doctors on what kind of medication can be given to cure that disease, right? To that extent, things are getting automated. And I would request Satish to explain about this cancer prediction model and also give a brief walkthrough. So what we have done is we have built a cancer prediction model for Brontobyte, where I serve as a chief data scientist. We have done multiple things wherein, say there is a patient who walks into a hospital. If the doctor or physician feels that this patient might have traces of cancer, then the patient is routed to radiologist, wherein your images are taken, radiology images. Radiologists would spend, say, 25 minutes, 30 minutes analyzing the report, analyzing the image, and then radiologists will write a report. Roughly in 20 to 30% of cases, the report in itself will be incorrect completely. And the report written by one radiologist will be completely different than the report written by another radiologist. Not completely, to a great extent it will be different. And if radiologist feels that there are suspicious cells, then radiologist will ask patient to go and meet a pathologist, wherein there is a small tumor particle taken for biopsy, and then that is put under the microscope to analyze it, and then pathologist will write a report, or there'll be images such as whole slide images, very, very large images. People have to zoom in, zoom out the interesting regions of interest, and then write a report based on that. Same thing. Pathologists would take roughly 30 minutes to 1 hour to write a report, And report written by one pathologist versus another pathologist might vary. It varies in almost all cases. And in certain cases, if the patient has cancer, a report might say patient doesn't have cancer. That's very dangerous. What if I can have an AI system which can actually predict with certain accuracy on whether patient has cancer or not? What if this AI system can also write a report? And what if pathologists can second that report and make subtle amends if needed? And then these reports, if I send automatically to an oncologist can look at that report and quickly act upon them, right? Basically, it serves as a friend to radiologists, pathologists, and oncologists, right? Satish, over to you. Do you want to share your screen and do you want to demonstrate this tool? Let me look at whether I think I need to unmute Satish. Satish, I think I've unmuted. No voice? Are you not able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, please.
Yeah, hi.
So,
yeah, I'll just go ahead with this thing. Yeah. So basically, as Barney mentioned that we have used this product. I mean, we designed this product and then we started working on it. So this requires two major inputs. One is radiology, basically worked on breast cancer. So it is like mammography images and distal pathology images as well. So we used mammography images to train the model and predict with a certain accuracy. And also we used pathology images for the same breast cancer. We collaborated with a diagnostic company, and then we collaborated two radiologists, two hospitals basically for radiology data. So the reason why we are explaining about all the applications and use cases and job opportunities in this field is about so so to make you understand that what exactly it is, and to make you understand about how the healthcare or the doctors that we need in this industry basically. So that's where we are. I'll try to demonstrate the product actually. Let me run through the product once and I'll explain you on that. Yeah. So meanwhile, I just wanted to put you in just to tell you that what Sictapul is doing. Sictapul is a startup company in Bangalore. Now we cannot call it as a startup because it's already been in use cases. So basically, Sictapul is doing that. It is running. It is basically designing a microscope. So that microscope is embedded with AI in it. So for example, in primary healthcare centers in rural areas, where they cannot afford or they cannot walk in through medical or any medical camp or many nearby cities. So these people needs to initially primarily diagnose what they have, what is the illness they have. So simply it's just that a primary healthcare or a nurse or somebody can take this blood sample, smear it across the glass chip, and they can directly run it on the microscope. So obviously then the microscope will detect saying that whether this particular patient or this particular person is having that particular type of disease, or it is like basically just give me a minute. I'll walk you through. I'll show you the demo actually. Just give me a minute. So hope you all see my screen. So basically this is for Brontabet Analytics that we designed. So this has not been synchronized with the hospital EMR or EHS database. That's why we cannot see any patient ID over here or contact number. But as soon as you enter any patient ID and the contact number, so it will pop up. It will automatically take the records from the backend database that what is required. So basically there are three modules here. One is symptom analysis, radiology, and pathology module. I'll just try to demonstrate the radiology module here. So as soon as I enter the patient ID, it says that who was this examined by and referred by and hospital ID and date and examination, all this. And it also gives you the clinical history of the patient. So now what we need to do is just simply upload. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So basically we need to give the data actually. So let me give you the data. So these are the mammography images. Once you upload these images, and it will run the images and give you the accuracy of that. Basically, at what accuracy, certain amount like 40% accuracy, 70% accuracy, 90% accuracy, these images are being cancerous, or if the images are not being cancerous. So that is how we develop this one. This is basically a kind of a minimum viable product that we worked on. So to make it into a more viable product, we are looking for more data and more collaborations with the hospitals. That's where we are right now. So the reason for this, basically the whole point for this whole the life science and healthcare analytics is that we want doctors and life sciences practitioners to come into the industry and work with us so that we can develop such innovative things for patients and for doctors as well. So I'm sorry, this is not a running. So Barney, yeah, over to you. This demonstration, I'm sorry, it's not working on the server. Basically, I need to connect to the server. Yeah. Barney? Yeah, I'm making you the host.
Hey, thank you, Satish. I mean, you were supposed to make me host. Thank you. All right. So this is what we have done as part of that cancer prediction model. It's a product that we built for startup, wherein I serve as a chief data scientist, taking the input image of breast cancer, segmenting the region, going to the region of interest, applying your AI algorithm, and then generating the report. Same is the case with pathology images also. Take the whole slide image, identify the region of interest, style it, then generate the report, right? So this training would be delivered by four of us. I'm Bharani, I'm here, and we are joined by Samson, who is an expert in in the field of AI and alumnus of ENU School of Business. We have Satish, who is a master's in bioinformatics, and he'll be explaining from the life sciences healthcare perspective. And then we have Shrija, who is into IoT. She's a BITS Pilani alumni. So that's about our trainers. And here are our USPs. When you enroll for this training is for 40 hours. Will it only be theory? No, it will be coupled by practical also. So theory plus practicals will be there. First. Second, you will have 60 hours of assignments for your own practice, and then you will be expected to work on a live project. So we keep working on a lot of projects. Just to tell you, I'll walk you guys through the USPs, and then I'll speak about the internship project also. You can attend the sessions multiple times for the entire 1 year, unlimited times. Whenever these sessions happen, you can attend. You'll be given free learning management system access with self-paced recorded videos of data science and AI. Just in case you want to learn more about AI and more about artificial intelligence, right? This will be for roughly 80 hours, and this will be for roughly 60 hours. So in total, 140 hours of self-paced learning videos will be given if you want to study more further. And on the same learning management system, all the slides that we use for the training, all the data that we use alongside the code program that we write would be shared with you. You will have access to our alumni portal, wherein you can attend free webinars in the future, and you will also get discounts on the other programs if you do. At the end of each module, you'll have quiz. It will be on learning management system. that will test on whether you are present uh, physically and mentally both, right? Then assignments at the end of each module would strengthen your learning. Then we have internship in the space of life sciences healthcare analytics, right? It could be free or it could be paid based on the need and based on your performance. We also help with resume preparation for those people who want to switch the jobs. We conduct mock interviews on you for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. In that way, there'll be slots. We'll conduct interviews. And then there'll be job placement assistance. Assistance, how is it provided? We have corporate tie-ups with probably 150 plus companies in India, right? And any job opportunity that comes out, we are also notified. And then we immediately share this information with our alumni, and then you can apply for that job. The moment you get a job interview call, look at the job description and you initiate a one-to-one conversation with your trainers, right? And finally, on the projects that you do at your workplace, at your company, you can actually take our assistance. There are people who got trained through us way back in 2013, and we are still proceeding to assist them. Okay, and one small thing before I take your questions, if you have any. There is a firm called as InnoDataTix, which is into data analytics. And as part of this company, we have done a lot of consulting engagements in the space of life sciences healthcare. One is we have taken the data from clinicaltrials.gov and we built prediction model to predict the success rate of clinical trials. Will a clinical trial be a success or a failure? We built a prediction model to predict on whether a patient will get readmitted to the hospital or not, right? We built a prediction model to predict on who are those people who might claim insurance. We predicted triple negative breast cancer. We have looked at the images to predict cancer based on tumor images. We have used wearable devices such as your Fitbit devices or Apple Watch, etc., to predict on what kind of diseases people might encounter. And we also shared that information with insurance firms. If you want to know more about that, you just go to the specific use case. You will come to know about the problem statement, the business challenges, the business solutions, and then the business impact it produced, right? All these things would be there. Now I'll go back here and take your questions. Please ask me if you have any questions, friends. Is my voice not clear? Am I not audible? Shriyasha says, I wasn't audible. Okay, perfect. Yep. There are a lot of doctors here attending. So doctors, physicians, do you have any doubts, any questions? We have wide range of people attending this, right? We have BDS, we have B pharmacy, we have nursing, we have doctors, MBBS, and we have Ayurvedic doctors, homeopathy doctors, physiotherapists. We have a lot of people in the audience who are attending this session, right? That's I think it covers the entire spectrum of life sciences healthcare. We also have people who have done their masters in hospital management. It will be a good experience to learn from each other, no doubt about that. And okay, there's a question. What is the training going to be in? Okay, fine. Let me go here. I think that's one most important thing which I've missed out. So this training will be for 40 hours. 60 hours will be assignments and e-learnings, and another 60 hours will be live projects. I'll also post this link on our WhatsApp group. You can go through that on what are the learning outcomes. You will be able to work with data generated from various sources. You will understand and interpret EHR data types, mimic two data sets. You'll be able to analyze clinical healthcare data. You'll be able to do descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive analytics which is essential for people who are doing their research also, in helping them submit their research papers, because you need to statistically evaluate the same. You'll be able to apply predictive models. You'll be able to build predictive models in the space of healthcare and clinical data, right? And so on and so forth. Let me also refresh this. So if you expand each one of that, you would understand on what exactly you will learn. And from programming perspective, you need not be a core programmer, right? We'll be giving you the code. We'll be giving you the code. You just need to put that in your computer and run it. That's it. So the major focus will be on how do we execute our techniques and how do we interpret the results, right? That will be the major focus. So you'll be building healthcare data models on genomics data also. Then you'll be working on genomics, proteomics, metabolomics, so on and so forth. For healthcare practitioners, you'll be applying certain regression models, etc. You'll be able to build a patient readmission prediction model. You'll be able to take the data from clinical trials and then you will predict on for which condition what intervention is needed. Then you will build a deep learning algorithm on DICOM images and you'll be able to build cancer prediction model. And finally, in the space of dental sciences, we are going to look at dental X-ray images and we'll do some kind of segmentation, right? So everything is related to data science and artificial intelligence and how it is going to help the life sciences healthcare practitioners. Yeah, someone has asked me this question on how does it predict healthcare readmission? Yes. So there are a lot of parameters that we consider. As part of the training, we'll do a deep dive into this on what are the various things that are considered, such as patient's previous medical record, what kind of disease he was treated for, so on and so forth. Do we complete technical? No. See, okay. So in companies such as say Deloitte or Infosys or other companies, you will have data scientists, but those data scientists only know techniques, only know how to deal with computer. If I ask that data scientist on, hey, go build a cancer prediction model or build a blood cancer prediction model, then this data scientist would obviously say, hey, I don't know what parameters have to be considered to be able to predict blood cancer. What should I consider? How do I go about? This is where life sciences healthcare practitioners come into picture, right? And the industry is expecting life sciences healthcare practitioners with certain amount of data science and AI, so that they might drive the verticals. They might drive the data science vertical for life sciences healthcare, and they might serve as subject matter experts, right, in handling these kind of projects. Shashidhar, I've been into the industry for 15 plus years. Okay, so you can bank on me that you need not be an expert programmer. I'm not an expert programmer, but I'm a chief data scientist on not just one company, but on 4 different companies. If I'm a programmer, then they would put me into a programming role. I would not advance in my career, right? So that's very important. You need not be a programmer. If you do a simple Google search, all the programs, all the code related to Python or related to R or related to SQL, everything is available on internet. It's just about copying and pasting it. So why would I pay lakhs of rupees for something which is already available publicly, right? I would pay for the human brain, not for the programming brain, right? So that's the thin line of difference. World has evolved. People are asking questions on how would you solve this? What kind of data would you get? What kind of techniques would you use? For programming, you have junior people, right? So they will do the job for you, Shashidhar. Probably I answered that question. Can it also be used to predict cancer reoccurrence and chances of metastasis? Yes, those models are also in place. Right? Sorry, I don't know your name because it's showing as Galaxy, your mobile name. But yep, absolutely, you can predict cancer recurrence also. It's not new; it's already there in place. Any other questions from any of our doctors? What about packages? Are you speaking about salaries? Salaries for data scientists typically range from 2.5 lakhs to 3 lakhs for every 1 year of experience. So if you are a person with 10 years experience, your salary would range anywhere between 25 lakhs to 30 lakhs. And your past experience in the space of life sciences healthcare would be extremely valid. You name a company in India in the space of IT, service providing firm, they will be having life sciences healthcare vertical as a separate vertical, right? Thousands of people will be working in that. And among them, there will be a team of data scientists. And if you are hired, then you would be heading that particular vertical of data scientists who handle life sciences healthcare projects. So there's a question, Lakshmi Rekha has a question. So being a biotechnology student, shall I design the total model of the consumer requirements? Not really. There'll be wide variety of skills of people who will be working along with you. So I would rather request Satish. Satish, I have unmuted you. Since
Yeah,
it's
hi.
related to biotechnology, I think you might want to ask. You might want to answer.
Lakshmi Rekha, your question is that, so being a biotechnology student, shall I design the total model of consumer requirements? If we have the experience in different domains, like I am from GS, worked for Google Maps. So here, one thing I wanted to comment is that for a biotechnology student, if you want to get into data science, that is pretty much, you can work with the consumer requirements. You can build a model if you're interested in programming, but you need to put hands on programming. That is one thing. And Google GIS is a different domain that you're working currently, but Google GIS is different thing. But being as a life sciences, being as a biotechnology graduate, then this program will help you to understand to some extent that what are the applications that you can build on AI and data science. So then once you're familiar with the concepts and once you want to put in your hands on programming, then you can go for it, deep dive and get into programming, AI and data science. Even I'm a bioinformatician, so you can relate with me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Satish. Any other questions, friends? If you have no questions, then thank you so much. Our single point of contacts who are in touch with you would get in touch with you and then explain you on when we are going to start this program, and you can certainly proceed further. Yeah, please ask your questions, Shriharsha. While you answer, I'm going to look at another question. If I'm a professional with total experience of 6 years but no experience with healthcare analytics, should I look forward to healthcare analytics as a career? Will I be offered the starting salary package if I move healthcare analytics, right? Government medical advisory. Yep, absolutely. You can move into healthcare analytics as a career. But since you are into medical advisory for pharma, you would have accrued some knowledge in the space of life sciences healthcare over a period of years. So that experience would come in handy. Yes. Not starting salaries. When you join organizations as life sciences healthcare analytical professionals, your past experience will be very valid, very valid. Right. And on that package, you'll be offered, salary. And market corrections happen. If your salary is very low, then they do market adjustment and they give you on par with industry standards. Do people consider my experience for salary? Yeah, your past experience is very valid. Yes. They don't discount your past experience because, see, for example, we have embarked on building a model, a proof of concept basically, of tracking the samples which are taken from the diagnostic centers and reach the test lab. Right? There, your GIS experience or the Google Map experience will come in handy in sense, can you help me predict the shortest route, the fastest route possible? Those kind of things. Shiharsa, it depends. If you have had experience of 18 years, then certainly that's a lot of experience, right? And they would look at how much are you earning now. They would look at what kind of experience you have, and for your kind of a profile, you need to apply for a senior position, maybe head of life sciences healthcare analytics verticals in various companies such as maybe Accenture, maybe IBM, etc. And then it would be crude for me to project some number, but approximately 3 lakhs multiplied by your years of experience. That should be the right figure that you should be looking at. You are in US healthcare and medical coding, is it, Shashi? Okay, good. Nice to know that. Okay, take this as a ballpark number. Okay, anywhere between 2.5 to 3 lakhs, sometimes even more. What is medical coding in data science? For that question, I think Satish would be the right person. Satish? I've unmuted you.
Yeah, hi Sashi. Sashi. Your question is that what is medical coding in data science in models? Yeah, so we're trying to build a model on those lines. Basically, NLP will be the best thing that, for example, if you take any medical codings that based on your prescription, you're coding this details, right? I believe that I have a little idea about medical coding. So taking the huge data and giving us specific categories of those codings, then probably we can build a model on those lines also. But if you have some certain amount of data, then we can work on your specific criteria. I have no software experience. Yeah. So Sashi, is it answered? Is it? Are you satisfied with my answer or? So basically, automating the medical coding. That is what the data science do in medical coding. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
There is a question from Shiasha. I have no software or analytics experience. Yes. So we are expecting, we will also get started right from scratch. Our expectation is that people who are joining this have absolutely no experience in programming and have no experience in analytics. Right. And then we get started right from scratch. So, yep, absolutely, it is going to help you. Okay, so our people are going to get in touch with you and then help you understand on what is the course fee and from when we are going to start this program. Right, you'll be receiving calls. People whoever have attended today, you'll be receiving calls shortly from us. Please do answer the calls, and if you have any further questions, you can actually get those doubts also clarified. Will this be an audit? What do you mean by that? Sorry, Shriyasha. Yeah, module 9 will cover those things here. Yeah, sure. We will WhatsApp you just in case you do not answer. Yeah. So in US and in Malaysia, we have conducted a lot of such trainings, Shashidhar. In India, this is going to be the first batch. Yes. And you'll be one of those early learners based on our experiences from running this program in US and in Malaysia as well. Oh, sorry. Satish, I think I've unmuted you.
Yeah, Sashi. So to be specific, your question that about ICT codes. Yeah, obviously you'll be getting an automated. You can get a hands-on on automation of this ICT codes, but that requires a little bit of programming knowledge, because doctors will enter a certain format and there will be no format for entering the medical names as such. For example, disease names. But you convert that disease names into ICD codes. Yeah, you need a certain experience with a little bit of programming, not very extensive programming. Yeah, but that is also a major module that which we can cover, as Samson suggested, that is in domain, yeah, module number 9, ICD 9 or ICD 10 codes. Yes. Yeah, that's it, Barney.
Yep. Thank you, Satish. I'm a fresher without any experience. Can I take this course? I'm related to pharma ground. Absolutely, Grishma. Absolutely. So this is not just for people who have experience, people who are freshers, and you would be a hot cake in the market when it comes to startups. There are a lot of startups mushrooming, and we already have a lot of startups in the space of life sciences healthcare. You would be absorbed into those. Um, yeah, majorly we will help you get placed here in India, but for US or Malaysia, you need a work visa, etc. So if you have an eligible work visa in US, then we can certainly help you. Otherwise, in Malaysia, it's a little easy to get work visa, but yeah, we will try out. We will try, but in India, certainly there is a lot of job assistance that we provide. Are there any PT? What do you mean by PT, Shiarsha? What kind of these kind of programs are they available elsewhere? Is that your question? If I'm not sure, we have done some market research and we found that our program is very unique and no, I don't think there is anything that we have encountered until now. But of course, our program is designed based on research which has done by various people in academics, right? From the Fortune 20 B schools and the technology schools and the medical colleges. From them, we have taken these insights to come up with this program that we have displaying now. All right, friends, thank you all so much. Duration, it will be from 7 to 9 a.m. on a daily basis. It will be for 40 hours, and 40 hours are contact hours. Plus, you will have 60 hours, which will be assignments. You are expected to do those, and another 60 hours will be live projects. And you'll receive a certificate upon completion. Absolutely. Once you complete your live project, you'll receive a certificate that you're not just trained, but you have also worked on a live industry specific, industry relevant project that will carry a lot of value on your profile. And that certificate you will receive from InnoDataTix, which is a US based analytics consulting firm. Yeah, if we do participate in various hackathons, our team of data scientists do participate in a lot of hackathons, and they won a lot of positions in these events, hackathons that were conducted in the past, and certainly that will help you, Lakshmi. And if you can participate in hackathons, we'll of course help you. Then automatically you'll get a job. We need not help you. You will automatically get a job. Yes, yes. Yeah. So there is some maybe audio issue at Sri Harsha's end, but yeah. All right. So our single point of contacts will contact you. If you have any questions whatsoever, please uh, check with them also and get your doubts clarified. You need good communication skills. We have soft skills sessions which happen. It is a value added session that we provide. No, Shashidhar, no. For life sciences, healthcare, analytics professionals, people won't ask programming related questions on how do you write a program to do this, how do you write a program to drop a specific column. Such things won't be asked. Because getting a life sciences, healthcare, analytics professional in itself is a challenge. All right, friends, thank you all so much for this overwhelming response. All right, a lot of people have sent us private messages saying that they would like to join it again when we conduct, but we will conduct probably another such session, and then we'll get started with our main program. Yeah, jobs will be full time. Yes, majorly jobs in India would be full time. Shriharsha. It'll be offline. You'll be sitting in an office and working. It will not be field based. Work from home, I doubt. A few organizations provide, a few organizations do not. In interview, people will check you, check on whether you have your domain experience, and do you actually understand what do you mean by data science and AI, and do you actually know what kind of techniques need to be employed to solve a specific business problem. For example, hey, I want to build a cancer prediction model. For example, what techniques do you apply? You should be able to speak on those lines. Hope that helps. We'll anyways have interview preparation sessions and all that which happen. All right, friends, thank you all so much. I'm hoping to, or we rather are hoping to see you all in the session. Thank you. Malaysian life sciences healthcare model, is that your question, Shriharsha? How does healthcare operate there? We have all of those things. It's our research, it's our experience, years of experience. We have it handy with us here. But we do not have any specific training programs to explain those things because it's very, very specific. But we can discuss. If you have anything to discuss on those lines, we can certainly have a discussion as part of the training. All the life sciences healthcare customers, Lakshmi Rekha, all the life sciences healthcare customers, companies, you name it. Alongside all the major IT companies such as TCS, Infosys, Cognizant, Wipro, Deloitte, Accenture, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Ernst & Young, Of course, you have a lot of companies such as Novartis, Dr. Reddy's, Aurobindo Pharma, you name it. IBM, Microsoft, all these are also companies. Amazon, for that case, are also hiring. All right, friends, have a great day. Thank you all so much for joining in.